Hollywood, a world of fame, beauty, and secrets. Behind the red carpets and flashing lights are stars who chose silence over confession. They loved, they lived, they inspired without ever saying a word. These are 30 American celebrities who never came out publicly proof that sometimes silence speaks louder than truth. For decades, Kevin Spacey stood as one of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures, a man whose personal life was shrouded in mystery even as his talent illuminated every screen. Known for his magnetic performances in American Beauty and House of Cards, Spacey carefully guarded his privacy. Whispers followed him everywhere, but he always deflected his life was his own, and he had no intention of giving the tabloids what they wanted. But by 2017, the silence broke. Amid controversy and allegations, Spacey addressed the speculation directly, a moment that changed the public's perception forever. Before that storm, however, he was the epitome of intrigue, a performer who seemed to live entirely within his roles, never beyond them. His story reminds us how fame and secrecy can coexist until the world demands truth. Queen Latifah has always radiated power on stage, on screen, and in life. A groundbreaking rapper, actress, and producer, she built her empire on confidence and authenticity, all while fiercely protecting her private world. For years, the media speculated about her relationships, but Latifah never let curiosity dictate her narrative. She's a masterclass in dignity, someone who shows that you don't owe your truth to anyone but yourself. When she finally acknowledged her longtime partner and thanked her publicly, it wasn't an announcement, it was an affirmation. Queen Latifah's quiet pride speaks louder than any headline ever could. She embodies a truth many forget. Living authentically doesn't always mean explaining yourself. Sometimes it means simply living well, freely, and with love. Jodie Foster spent most of her career walking the tightrope between privacy and speculation. From her teenage fame and Taxi Driver to her Academy Award-winning performances, she was both admired and scrutinized. Journalists prodded, rumors swirled, but Jodie remained steadfast. Her personal life was hers alone. Then came the 2013 Golden Globes, when she finally spoke her truth in a speech that felt more like poetry than confession. She didn't come out in the traditional sense. She redefined what it meant to be open. With grace and intelligence, she made one thing clear. Her identity wasn't a spectacle. It was simply part of her humanity. Before that moment, she symbolized Hollywood's quiet resistance to intrusion. After it, she became a beacon for those who believe in the right to reveal themselves on their own terms. Before 2012, Anderson Cooper's sexuality was the world's open secret spoken about quietly, written around carefully, but never confirmed by the man himself. As one of the most trusted journalists in America, he chose silence not from shame, but from professionalism. "I just want to do my job," he often said, and he did, with excellence. When he finally came out, it wasn't through a press conference or grand reveal. It was through a heartfelt letter to a friend, later shared publicly, where he wrote, "The fact is, I'm gay, and I couldn't be more happy, comfortable, and proud." That moment, though understated, became historic. Before that, Cooper embodied the quiet dignity of living truthfully in private. Afterward, he became a symbol of integrity and representation, proof that honesty and professionalism can coexist beautifully. Vin Diesel has always walked his own path. The Fast and Furious star, with his gravelly voice and global fame, has never let gossip dictate his story. For years, rumors surrounded his personal life, yet Diesel's response was firm and unforgettable. "I'm not your reality show." That statement alone defined him. In an industry obsessed with labels and speculation, Vin Diesel represents the freedom of self-defined masculinity. He's never denied who he is, but he's also never let the world box him in. His focus remains on his craft, his family, and his values. Whether on set or in interviews, he radiates confidence that doesn't seek validation. To this day, he stands as a reminder that not every truth has to be shared publicly sometimes. The strongest move is to live authentically, without explanation. For more than 4 decades, John Travolta has remained one of Hollywood's most enduring enigmas, a superstar who defined entire eras of cinema, yet never let the world peek too deeply behind the curtain. From his dazzling debut in Saturday Night Fever to his iconic comeback in Pulp Fiction, Travolta's career has been marked by reinvention, charisma, and discipline. But equally present, lingering just beneath his fame, have been the endless whispers about his private life. Through it all, Travolta has met speculation with silence, not defensiveness, not denial, just quiet professionalism. He's built a career on focus, not gossip, channeling his energy into his craft and his family rather than feeding the rumor mill. When tragedy struck losing his wife Kelly Preston and their son Jet, the world saw the man behind the fame, dignified, tender, and heartbreakingly human. In an industry obsessed with exposure, Travolta has become something rare, a reminder that not every story needs to be told to be respected. His privacy is not secrecy, it's self-preservation. For decades, he's shown that true grace lies in living your truth quietly and letting your work speak louder than the noise around you. Tom Cruise is the definition of a Hollywood titan, magnetic, relentless, larger than life. His every movie becomes an event, his every appearance a headline. But for all the spectacle that surrounds him, Tom remains an intensely private man. Behind the global fame, blockbuster franchises, and near-mythic stunts lies someone who has mastered the art of silence in the age of exposure. For years, Cruise's personal life has been dissected and theorized about endlessly, from his relationships to his beliefs. And yet, he never lets the noise define him. He doesn't explain, doesn't react, doesn't give the tabloids the satisfaction of a story. Instead, he gives audiences what they came for: precision, commitment, and showmanship at the highest level. Love him or question him, Tom Cruise represents an older Hollywood code, a performer whose mystery is part of his power. He lives as though the camera turns off when the work ends. In a culture addicted to oversharing, Cruise stands apart, a man who remains untouchable because he refuses to be decoded. Before 2012, Matt Bomer was the embodiment of old-school Hollywood elegance, impossibly handsome, effortlessly charming, and impossibly private. His performances in White Collar and The Normal Heart captivated audiences, but behind the calm, polished exterior was a man quietly protecting his truth. For years, Bomer sidestepped personal questions, choosing dignity over drama. He let his artistry speak for him until one day, in a simple acceptance speech, he changed everything. Thanking his husband, Simon Halls, and their 3 sons, he didn't come out, he simply let love take the microphone. The crowd's reaction said it all: respect, admiration, and deep affection. Since then, Bomer has used his platform not to make statements, but to show visibility through grace. He's become a quiet icon, the kind who doesn't need grand gestures to change hearts. His story reminds us that sometimes the most powerful coming out isn't about shock or spectacle, it's about living beautifully, consistently, and truthfully, no matter who's watching. Wentworth Miller's journey is one of silence, struggle, and redemption. For years, the star of Prison Break kept his private life locked away as tightly as his on-screen character was behind bars. Interview after interview, he brushed off questions about relationships, masking the weight of internal conflict beneath his stoic charm. But in 2013, everything changed. When invited to a film festival in Russia, he declined with a letter that made headlines around the world. In it, he revealed he was gay and that he could not, in good conscience, visit a country persecuting people like him. That letter wasn't just a personal revelation, it was a lifeline to others. In later interviews, Miller spoke about his years of denial and depression, his fear of rejection, and the liberation that followed honesty. He came out not to be celebrated, but to survive, and to help others survive too. Today, he stands as one of Hollywood's most articulate, compassionate voices for mental health and LGBTQ+ rights. His story is a quiet revolution, proof that sometimes the hardest prison to escape is the one we build around ourselves. At the height of Twilight mania, Kristen Stewart was one of the most famous women on Earth and one of the most misunderstood. Every glance, every friendship, every relationship became tabloid fodder. But while the world demanded labels, Kristen refused to play along. She spoke softly, carefully, yet confidently. "I love who I love." That simple statement became her armor and her anthem. Before she publicly embraced her queer identity, Kristen's power was in her subtle rebellion. She dressed how she wanted, spoke when she felt like it, and never let the world dictate her narrative. Her defiance wasn't loud, it was lived. In an era when authenticity is often commodified, she made it look effortless. By the time she came out publicly, she wasn't revealing something new, she was simply confirming what her confidence had already shown. Kristen Stewart turned privacy into power and vulnerability into visibility. Her journey isn't about labels, it's about liberation. She taught a generation that you don't have to shout your truth to live it boldly. Cary Grant was the embodiment of Golden Age glamour, debonair, witty, and impossibly charming. On-screen, he was every woman's dream. Off-screen, he was Hollywood's most elegant mystery. Behind his dashing smile and polished demeanor, Grant lived a life that defied the conventions of his time. His lifelong friendship and rumored romance with fellow actor Randolph Scott became one of the industry's most whispered-about legends. The two men shared homes, vacations, and years of companionship that many described as deeper than friendship. Yet, in an era where suggestion could destroy a career, Grant navigated Hollywood with discretion and grace. He never confirmed, never denied. Instead, he let the speculation swirl around him like cigarette smoke in a black and white film. Cary Grant's magnetism came from that very enigma, a man who could play the perfect lover on screen, while keeping the truest parts of himself just out of reach. Decades later, he remains a symbol of both charm and complexity, a reminder that even the brightest stars of old Hollywood often lived in carefully curated shadows. Rock Hudson was the American dream in human form, tall, handsome, and utterly captivating. On screen, he was the picture of masculinity, the romantic hero every studio adored. But behind the carefully constructed image, Hudson lived with a secret that defined and haunted his career. For decades, he maintained the illusion of the perfect leading man, even entering a short-lived marriage arranged to silence rumors. He lived through an era that demanded silence from men like him, forcing him to hide not just his love, but his very identity. When Rock Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS in 1984, his truth finally came to light. His public acknowledgement of the illness and, by extension, his sexuality shocked Hollywood, but also changed the conversation about compassion and stigma forever. In death, he became something far more powerful than a matinee idol, a symbol of courage, vulnerability, and the high price of secrecy. Marlon Brando didn't just change acting, he changed what it meant to be. His performances were raw, explosive, and unpredictable, reflecting a man who refused to live within boundaries. That defiance extended beyond art. In later interviews, Brando casually revealed what Hollywood had long refused to imagine, that he had loved both men and women. It wasn't a confession, it was a shrug, a statement of fact. Like a lot of men, I have had homosexual experiences, he said, dismantling decades of machismo with a single line. The world was stunned. How could the ultimate symbol of rugged masculinity, the Stanley Kowalski, the Don Corleone, speak so openly about desire without shame? Brando's revelation wasn't about shock value. It was about freedom. He lived life as he acted without apology. Even in his contradictions, he remained magnetic, human, and ahead of his time. Marlon Brando didn't need to come out, he simply refused to be boxed in, proving that true strength often lies in embracing the full spectrum of self. James Dean burned bright and brief a comet across Hollywood's sky. With only 3 major films, he became the face of rebellion, youth, and restless longing. But behind the leather jacket and brooding gaze was a man even more complex than his roles suggested. For decades, whispers have surrounded Dean's relationships with both men and women. Directors, co-stars, and close friends hinted that he was open, fluid, and unafraid to connect beyond convention. Yet, like his performances, his life remained layered in mystery. He never labeled himself, he simply lived, loved, and vanished too soon. Dean's sexuality remains debated, but perhaps that's the point. He wasn't built to be understood, he was built to be felt. His ambiguity became part of his mythology, a mirror for generations who saw in him the courage to exist without explanation. James Dean will forever be the beautiful question mark in Hollywood history, an icon who defined freedom long before the world could name it. George Clooney is the last of the true Hollywood gentlemen, suave, articulate, and forever elusive. For years, he wore the title of Most Eligible Bachelor, like a tailored suit, brushing off endless speculation about his love life with a charming grin and a disarming joke. Before marrying Amal Clooney, the world projected every possible story onto him: playboy, loner, mystery man, yet George never let curiosity shake his calm. He's a master of the wink and the sidestep, keeping the public engaged but never truly informed. His laughter at rumors, his refusal to explain, became part of his allure. What makes Clooney fascinating isn't what he hides, but how gracefully he hides it. He's proof that in a world obsessed with exposure, mystery still has power. His story isn't about secrets, it's about sovereignty. George Clooney remains the modern heir to old Hollywood privacy, a reminder that charisma isn't just about what you share, it's about what you choose to keep. At the height of Twilight Mania, Taylor Lautner became one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. His abs were on billboards, his smile on magazine covers, and his name in every tabloid headline. Yet, behind the frenzy, Lautner remained composed, grounded, polite, and unwaveringly private. As fame skyrocketed, so did the rumors. Every co-star, every red carpet glance, every quiet moment became fuel for speculation, but Taylor never engaged. He never fed the gossip mill, never gave the world what it wanted: a label, a scandal, or a confession. Instead, he focused on his craft and personal peace, staying calm amid the chaos. His quiet defiance made him stand out in an era when celebrity oversharing became the norm. He proved that silence isn't weakness, it's control. Taylor Lautner's story isn't one of denial, but of self-protection and quiet dignity, a reminder that the loudest truth often lives in the peace of not explaining yourself. Raven-Symoné grew up before our eyes, a Disney icon, a comedy star, and a woman constantly under the microscope. From That's So Raven to The View, she radiated confidence and creativity, even as the media obsessed over her personal life. But Raven made one thing clear long before she ever publicly came out: her identity was hers to define. When pressed about labels, she famously said, "I'm not defined by who I sleep with, I'm defined by who I am." It was a statement of independence, not defiance, a declaration that authenticity doesn't require explanation. Long before 2014, when she openly confirmed her same-sex relationship, Raven had already lived freely in her truth, just not publicly. Her choice to prioritize self-acceptance over public approval made her a quiet trailblazer for a generation that often feels forced to choose between visibility and privacy. Raven-Symoné showed that freedom isn't in the announcement, it's in the living. With his razor-sharp wit and impeccable comedic timing, David Hyde Pierce became a television legend through his role as Niles Crane on Frasier. Beloved for his intelligence and charm, Pierce won hearts and multiple Emmys while keeping his private life off the public stage. For years, he quietly shared his life with his partner, Brian Hargrove, without press releases or interviews. Their love was real, stable, and refreshingly ordinary in a town built on spectacle. When Pierce finally acknowledged his relationship publicly in 2007, it wasn't a revelation, it was confirmation of what those closest to him already knew. His coming out was marked by the same elegance that defined his career: understated, graceful, and deeply sincere. David Hyde Pierce's journey reminds us that authenticity doesn't always require an announcement sometimes. It's simply lived in peace and love, away from the noise. To the world, Henry Cavill is Superman, the face of strength, chivalry, and quiet confidence. But unlike many of his peers, Cavill has built a fortress of privacy around his personal life. While Hollywood buzzes with speculation, he remains composed, steering interviews toward his work, his passions, and his gratitude for his fans, never his romances. His charm lies not just in his looks or his roles, but in his old-fashioned sense of grace. He treats fame with respect, yet never lets it invade his private world. Every rumor that arises meets the same response: silence, delivered with a polite smile. Cavill represents a rare kind of celebrity, one who values mystery over media, substance over speculation. His refusal to engage with gossip isn't arrogance, it's boundary setting. In an era of exposure, Henry Cavill remains timeless, a reminder that even the modern Superman deserves to keep his heart to himself. When Brokeback Mountain premiered in 2005, it changed cinema, and it changed Jake Gyllenhaal's life forever. His portrayal of a man trapped between love and fear earned him an Oscar nomination and a permanent place in pop culture history. But with that brilliance came speculation, curiosity, and endless questions about his own identity. Through it all, Jake remained steadfast. He praised the film's message, defended its importance, but never allowed the conversation to become about him. "You don't need to have lived something to tell the truth about it," he once said, a line that perfectly captures his philosophy. Rather than deny or confirm, Gyllenhaal chose silence as strength. He understood that art speaks louder than gossip, and that true courage isn't in explaining yourself, it's in honoring the story. Today, he's admired not only as one of his generation's greatest actors, but also as a man who understands that mystery isn't a flaw, it's power. For years, Zachary Quinto lived with quiet grace, allowing his work, not his personal life, to define him. With roles in Heroes and Star Trek, he became a symbol of intelligence, intensity, and charm. Everyone in Hollywood seemed to know, but Quinto never felt the need to confirm what didn't need confirmation. He believed visibility should come from purpose, not pressure. Then, in 2011, everything changed. After reading about a young gay teen's suicide, Quinto decided silence was no longer an option. His coming out wasn't about headlines, it was about solidarity. "Living without visibility," he said, "reinforces the world's misconceptions." His decision marked a turning point, transforming him from actor to advocate. Zachary Quinto's story shows that sometimes authenticity isn't about timing, it's about conscience. In the 1,970 seconds, Richard Chamberlain was television royalty, the romantic lead every network wanted and every viewer adored. From Dr. Kildare to the Thornbirds, he embodied the classic Hollywood hero, handsome, articulate, unreachable. But behind that golden image, Chamberlain carried a truth that couldn't yet be spoken. For decades, he lived quietly with his partner, always careful to keep his private world hidden from the cameras. The industry wasn't ready, and he knew the cost of honesty could be his career. It wasn't until 2003, in his memoir, that he finally shared his story. His revelation was gentle but seismic, not bitter, just brave. Chamberlain's choice to live authentically later in life reflected the slow evolution of Hollywood itself, a culture learning, painfully, to make room for honesty. His journey remains a portrait of patience and quiet resilience, proof that living truthfully is powerful no matter when it happens. For 2 decades, Shep Smith was one of the most recognizable faces on American television, the cool, composed anchor at Fox News who navigated chaos with a calm voice and sharp mind. Yet, behind the professionalism, he carried a truth he kept guarded for most of his career. In the cutthroat world of cable news, where perception is everything, Smith chose discretion. He avoided gossip and personal questions, focusing on his work. But as years passed and society shifted, so did he. In 2017, he finally acknowledged what many already knew: he was gay and happy. His quiet candor was met not with shock, but with respect. Shep Smith's story is one of integrity over spectacle. He came out not for applause, but for peace of mind. His late honesty reflected not hesitation, but wisdom, the understanding that timing is deeply personal and that truth, once spoken, doesn't need to shout. Long before she became one of Hollywood's most influential voices, Lena Waithe was a young black woman writing scripts in silence, quietly carrying a story the world wasn't yet ready to hear. She knew who she was, but in an industry that often rejected both her race and her identity, she kept her truth close, protecting it like a flame. When success finally came with Master of None and her groundbreaking series, The Chi, Lena brought that truth to light with purpose. Her art became her declaration, her characters living reflections of the freedom she had fought for. She didn't just come out, she opened the door for countless others to walk through. Lena Waithe's journey shows that authenticity and art can be revolutionary when they meet. Her courage turned invisibility into visibility, proving that storytelling, honest, fearless storytelling, can change an entire culture. Elegant, kind, and endlessly talented, Victor Garber has been a fixture in film, television, and theater for decades. From Titanic to Alias, his performances radiate warmth and wisdom, the kind of quiet strength that feels deeply personal. Off-screen, Garber lived with that same calm dignity, sharing his life with his longtime partner, artist Rainer Andreessen, without ever making it a topic of discussion. For years, he never felt the need to make an announcement. His friends knew, his colleagues knew, and that was enough. Then, in 2013, in a casual interview, he acknowledged what had long been true. "My companion Rainer and I have been together almost 14 years. No press release, no statement, just truth, spoken with serenity." Victor Garber's story is a masterclass in grace. In a world obsessed with exposure, he chose peace. His coming out wasn't about revelation, it was about recognition. He reminds us that love doesn't always need a spotlight to be seen. Sometimes, it just needs to be lived well. Before Brittany Griner became a global symbol of strength, authenticity, and LGBTQ+ visibility in sports, her truth lived in the shadows, a whispered secret passed between friends and teammates. As a towering force in women's basketball, she dominated the court with power and precision, redefining what athletic greatness could look like. Yet off the court, she carried a quiet weight, the fear that being herself might cost her everything. In a world where female athletes were scrutinized for every move, Brittany stayed guarded, choosing performance over vulnerability. But in 2013, everything changed. With one candid interview, she came out publicly not as a political statement, but as a personal release. "I am who I am," she said, simply and powerfully. That honesty transformed her from athlete to icon. Today, Brittany Griner stands as a pillar of resilience and representation, proof that authenticity doesn't just change a career, it can change the world. Before 2013, her truth was quiet. Now, it echoes in every corner of sport. Colton Haynes was the golden boy of Hollywood, handsome, charming, and seemingly perfect. But beneath the bright lights of Teen Wolf and Arrow, he carried a secret that nearly consumed him. For years, Colton played roles that projected confidence and charisma, while privately struggling with anxiety, fear, and the relentless need to hide his identity. He smiled for cameras and laughed through interviews, even as online rumors swirled. When fans speculated about his sexuality, he responded with silence, a silence born not of shame, but of exhaustion. Then, in 2016, he broke that silence, revealing that he was gay and had been living in quiet pain for far too long. The world's reaction was overwhelmingly warm, a reminder that the truth he feared had always been his greatest strength. Since coming out, Colton has become a voice for mental health and self-acceptance, showing that healing begins when we stop pretending. His journey from secrecy to self-love remains one of Hollywood's most heartfelt transformations. For years, Sean Hayes made the world laugh as Jack McFarland on Will and Grace, one of the most iconic gay characters in television history. His performance broke barriers and changed pop culture forever. Yet, behind the character's flamboyant charm and comedic brilliance, Sean himself remained silent about his own sexuality. He later admitted the reason: fear. Hollywood in the late 90s wasn't ready to embrace openly gay stars, even those portraying them. "I never wanted my personal truth to take away from what the show meant," he said. But as time passed, silence became heavier than the risk. When he finally came out in 2010, it wasn't dramatic, it was sincere and healing. Fans didn't lose respect, they gained a deeper connection. Sean Hayes' journey reflects the bittersweet paradox of queer representation, how someone can give visibility to millions while still feeling invisible themselves. His courage reminds us that laughter can change the world, but honesty can save the soul. For nearly half a century, Barry Manilow filled arenas with songs about love, Mandy, Can't Smile Without You, Copacabana, each lyric dripping with passion and emotion. But behind those melodies lay a love story he kept hidden for decades. Afraid that honesty might cost him his career or break the hearts of his devoted fans, Barry stayed silent. He lived quietly with his manager and partner, Gary Keefe, their relationship spanning over 40 years before the world ever knew. When he finally came out in 2017, fans didn't turn away, they cheered. "They were so happy that I was happy," he said, stunned by the outpouring of support. Barry's decision to speak his truth later in life became a powerful reminder that love has no expiration date. His story isn't one of deception, it's one of preservation, of protecting something sacred until the world was finally ready to celebrate it. Before 2014, the world knew him as Ellen Page, the breakout star of Juno, the indie darling who captured hearts with her vulnerability and wit. But behind that success was a storm of pressure, confusion, and suffocating silence. Hollywood adored her talent, but demanded conformity. The expectation to play perfect female roles became unbearable. When Elliot came out as gay in 2014, it was one of the most emotional and empowering moments in entertainment history. Standing on stage, voice trembling, he spoke not as a celebrity, but as a human being finally exhaling after years of pretending. It wasn't just a coming out, it was a declaration of survival. Years later, Elliot would come out as transgender, continuing his journey toward truth with the same grace and courage that has defined his life. But even before 2014, his eyes carried a quiet plea, the desire to be free. Elliot Page's evolution reminds us that truth is not a destination, but a lifelong act of courage. Don't ever apologize for being yourself. The world needs your light. Until next time, stay proud, stay kind, and stay true.